Numbers 11:29 and Joel 3:5. We pass to the New Testament. So far, we have looked at the phenomenon of prophetism in the Old Testament. A closer look at the Gospels and the whole New Testament shows immediately that prophetism was still an important feature and a category often employed to interpret Jesus' own identity. As a matter of fact, already at the beginning of Jesus' life, there is the prophet John the Baptist, who announced Jesus, and also the prophetess Anna, who in the temple, I quote, gave thanks to the Lord and spoke about the child to all who were awaiting the redemption of Israel. The evangelist Matthew saw in Jesus the inauguration of a time of fulfillment of all the hopes of Israel. In his at least 10 so-called fulfillment quotations, he refers to the sayings of the prophet of old, who pointed out a situation that now was becoming a reality. For example, Matthew 1:22, all this took place to fulfill what the Lord had said through the prophet. And even more, the people connected Jesus himself to what they knew was the vocation of an authentic prophet in Israel. He simply called Jesus the prophet from Nazareth in Galilee. He is so extraordinary that people think he might be another John the Baptist, Elijah, or Jeremiah. Jesus' whole lifestyle and actions make him appear in the best prophetic tradition. Some examples. Along with his disciples, he is, like the prophets, an itinerant preacher who has nowhere to lay his head. Jesus criticizes the powerful rulers who are, according to his words, the violent who take the kingdom of heaven by force. His equally harsh words for the Pharisees, who saw themselves as religious examples. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees! On the outside you appear righteous, but inside you are filled with hypocrisy and evil doing. Jesus shows his prophetic competence in miracles of healing and in symbolic actions. For example, when he kicks the merchants and money changers out of the temple, which they had converted into a den of thieves. But Jesus does not only criticize social injustice and the abuse of religion, he also encourages and energizes the people. He has a word of hope and beatitude for the poor, the mourning, the meek, the merciful, the clean of heart, the peacemakers, and the persecuted. He fosters amazement or even poetry when he tells his listeners to learn from the way the wildflowers grow. He finally instructs the people to show generous neighborly concern, like in the story of the merciful Samaritan, which gives the precept of love a concrete shape. We will have a small break in some minutes. Jesus was not a solitary ascetic in the desert. He called his own disciples in the way the early prophets were chosen. This is to say, it was not necessarily the learned that were called, but those with a burning heart, courageously enough to suffer for the ideals of the kingdom of heaven. With the 12 and the larger community of disciples, Jesus formed a whole kingdom community. Jesus was kind of a prophet, but also much more than a prophet. He was the one, the Messiah, the Son of God, and as such, the unique mediator between God and humanity. Therefore, the authors of the New Testament can speak of a new covenant in Jesus and in his salvific death. Whoever belongs henceforth to the covenant is integrated into the mystical body of Christ. That is, the community of believers which overcomes the barriers between Jews and Gentiles, male and female. As such, the earliest church as community of communities dispersed in Europe and Middle East, the Near East, lived the covenant according to Jesus and the apostles' teachings. Since there were charismatic communities, like for example in Corinth, they still had individual prophetic vocations in their midst, as long as their gift helped build up the community and promote the bonds of love among them and with the Lord. Yet, by and large, there was no felt need for special vocations whose first task would have been to criticize and challenge the believers. Just think of their situation. Christians in the Roman Empire were small minority groups which were constantly exposed to mockery, threats, and even formal persecution. Since they had to courageously live out the demands of the faith in a non-Christian society, their fidelity was put to the test every day. There was no prophet needed to recall to them their duties. Rather, the opposite was the case. The lifestyle of the Christians was so countercultural that they not only caused opposition by the powerful, but also attracted curiosity and sympathy and brought many of them to conversion. At this stage, I would like to cite a very impressive early Christian testimony of probably the end of the 2nd or the beginning of the 3rd century. It is written by an unknown Christian. He calls himself only Mertens, or the disciple. Someone who was asked by a pagan about the specifics of the Christian lifestyle. And this is what he answers. Christians are not distinguished from the rest of humanity by country, language, or custom, for nowhere do they live in cities of their own, nor do they speak some unusual dialect, nor do they practice an eccentric lifestyle. While they live in both Greek and barbarian cities, and follow the local customs in dress and food and other aspects of life, at the same time they demonstrate the remarkable and admittedly unusual character of their own citizenship. Every foreign country is their fatherland, and every fatherland is foreign. They marry like everyone else and have children, but they do not kill their offspring. They share their food, but not their wives. They are in the flesh, but do not live according to the flesh. They live on earth, but their citizenship is in heaven. They love everyone, and by everyone they are persecuted. They are poor, yet they make many rich. They are cursed, yet they bless. They are insulted, yet they offer respect. Those who hate them are unable to give a reason for their hostility. The Christians, therefore, as they are portrayed, were not eccentric people with fancy customs. They lived in their respective countries as ordinary citizens, and yet, by their alternative gospel values, their communities acted like leaven in the pagan societies. So, just if you wish, we could just have a 5-minute break to stretch the legs and the arms.